I've heard that you can fake it till you make it, but I don't think it can be forced. And it can only be attained by practicing what you do.
You know, vision is not only about what is happening in that specific area, it's also about what is happening, you know, or what isn't happening rather. So if they try to push this out, you can either go kill them. He's meowing a lot. So when you're trying to play offensive, another trap to avoid, guys, is, you know, obviously it's... Yeah, I think he's just a bit bored. Let's say you take full control of this side of the map, right? And then the enemy team, they do the opposite. They take control of your side of the map. That means you can no longer contain them, right? What's up, guys? This is Hansken once again. Today I'm going to be talking about warding. I think it's important to understand, you know, what is a good ward, what's the mindset like, whether you're playing offensively or defensively. That's going to matter a lot for your game plan in terms of warding. So I thought I'd go for a little bit how my mind goes when warding, and you know, show some tricks, and you know, also a lot of ward spots which a lot of the pros use, and you know, a bit of the theory behind it. So there is a little bit of a difference, like between the early game to later game, how you want to ward. That could be defensive or offensive, right? In the early game, let's say you're trying to farm a lot of stacks, right? It's obviously a good idea to defend those stacks with vision, making sure that your team has the right information to, you know, counterplay if enemies are trying to contest, or the other way around. Like if you're trying to play active with your heroes, you have fast timings, you want to be looking to grab information on enemy side of the map, potentially slowing down their farm and whatnot, right? But as we move later into the game, you know, the wards are going to be a bit different. It's going to be more focused around Roshan. When tier 1 towers are dead, that changes the warding a little bit. So a lot of the time, like in, let's say, the first part of the game, it's going to be a lot about farming areas, right? Because this is the time where everybody needs farm in the game. But later into the game, farm matters way less. You know, we're talking, you know, around second, third, Roshan, this sort of thing. Usually after the farming phase, the game becomes a lot about the tier 2 towers, you know, who can get that first, get the outpost going, the momentum like that, or the Roshan. So that means, you know, this relates a little bit to what I talked about in the, you know, the map movement videos, where I talked about the avoiding map movement and the confronting map movement, right? So this should be slightly different, whether you are trying to hunt enemies down or trying to avoid them, right? That makes total sense. It's the one and only Digo Double G. But anyway, I just thought I'll show you guys 2 replays and go through like a little bit of my theory behind the warding. And let's see. I think that the level 1 ward is very important. You know, there's a few good spots for it. I think this one is good. I think behind the tower, like a lot of pros are doing to snipe couriers. If you're a fast hero or use the smoke, you could get this one, and that's especially going to be important against, you know, lanes that the big camp matter a lot. For example, Enchantress. So now I'm just going to put a ward out here. This is going to help me trade in the lane, make sure that I know, you know, what the monkey is doing, etc. So, okay, early game wards that I would recommend for you guys is when you're playing Radiant. It's kind of the same if you're on Dire, to be honest, but I like the hill wards are really, really good, especially in the nighttime, right? In nighttime, visions give, or wards give a little bit less vision compared to the daytime. That's why the hills are a lot stronger in the nighttime if you're able to control them, of course. So this one, and this one are all great options. It doesn't really matter if you're playing offensively or defensively. You know, if you're trying to fight though, like I would definitely recommend, like, if you can get the control of either one of these hills around the mid lane, you know, this hill or this hill, they're both on Dire side, and they both give information about the runes, right? And, you know, the very common stack places. So this means if you're able to control either one of these, even if you don't see anybody, you're going to be able to fight around these runes, right? Or you're going to have the right information to know whether they're coming or not. You know, let's say they're showing 3 heroes here, that means that they're most likely not fighting the top rune, right? So definitely recommend you guys to try to control either one of these hills when you're trying to play offensively. So once we get this hill, right? This means that we now have information about pretty much everything that Dire is doing, right? We see 3 heroes here already. We know that the Monkey King is top because it was just showing as a primal beast. This now means that, you know, this is not only helpful for, you know, the heroes that are playing close to them. I want to make the point of, like, this is also very, very useful for enemies playing on the reverse or like the opposite side of the map. So this means that the Disruptor can now feel much safer because, you know, he could potentially only be facing the Necrophos in the next, let's say, 20 seconds. This means he can grab all the XP safely, right? This gives him the information that he needs to play his game. So, you know, vision is not only about what is happening in that specific area, it's also about what is happening, you know, or what isn't happening, rather. So you remember when I spoke about creep waves importance. So if people are ignoring creep waves, that means they're probably on the move, right? They're trying to make a move. So when you're trying to play offensive, like you're placing these offensive wards, you know, anywhere like here in enemy jungle, these areas, it's important not to like overinvest your vision into one place, because let's say you take full control of this side of the map, right? And then the enemy team, they do the opposite. They take control of your side of the map. That means you can no longer contain them, right? You cannot lock them in because you invested all your vision here. It's gonna be nighttime, and you know, now you have no vision for like a smoke. So that means you just took control of one side. When you're trying to play offensive, really what you're trying to do is you want to get more out of the map than the enemies, right? You want to get kills, you want to take away their farm. That means you have to get like a larger piece of the map, if that makes sense. So that's why I think this ward is really good. So now we have both offensive wards and defensive wards in the same game, right? So this ward is to like contest enemy farming areas, and this ward is good for like defending tier 1 tower. Or rather, it doesn't mean that we have to defend the tower for sure, but it means that we have the option to do so if we want to. Like, we have the information needed. We know how many heroes they're bringing to this fight. Whereas if we didn't have a ward, we wouldn't be able to at the same time. So, you know, these type of wards, I'll cover it a bit more when I talk about defensive vision. But, you know, wards that help you defend your towers are very useful when you're playing defensively. So I just want to show that you can have both in the same game, offensively and defensive wards. So as you can see here, we see the monkey coming in through this ward. He 3 dances. That means my drow is TPing right away. And we're able to get a kill on their carry. Whereas, you know, if we didn't have this ward, if we didn't like set up the vision like this to try to contain them, you know, the most typical map split probably would have just happened. The monkey was able to get this bottom tower for free, we get the top tower for free, and then it's kind of just an even game from there, if you know what I mean. But by doing this, by splitting up the vision a little bit more, that means that we can kind of get more out of the map than we're supposed to. So now I have this ward, you know, right outside of tier 2. When we're playing Radiant, we're trying to push them in, right? We're playing offensively. So I want to explain why these lane wards are really, really good when you're trying to like pressure enemies, you know, you're trying to basically avoid them from dead laning, right? So if they try to push this out, you can either go kill them. He's meowing a lot. So when you have this type of ward, you're trying to prevent enemies from dead laning, right? You can either, you know, go kill them as they try to push the lane out pretty easily, especially if you have the right methods of catch, lockdown, damage, you know. But if you're on the other side of the map, this means that you have the information that this guy is pushing out. You can now make a move here, right? You can make a move anywhere on the map because this guy is here. He's kind of stuck. He doesn't have a great tower to TP to. We're talking about the part of the game where all the tier 1 towers are done, basically. So if someone is here, that means he can't really be here, right? It makes total sense because there's no tower here. So I'll show you how it comes into play in a second. So now we see the Invoker up here, right? Because this is a high MMR game, people are going to react fairly fast. So Invoker showing top with his forges means he has to be there. My team immediately goes for a smoke and kills the enemy carry once again. So, you know, this is not based on like, you know, them seeing the monkey themselves. It's more so based on the Invoker showing, knowing that he cannot really be into the fight there because there's no objective to TP to. So this is what I mean, like these very offensive wards in the early game control the farming areas, but then like lane wards are very good, enemy farming areas, and also, you know, for Roshan, etc. We'll cover that a bit more in a future video though, about the Roshan thing. For a lot of you guys watching, it can be tricky to understand, like, you know, or you could be like, I'm putting all these wards all the time, you know, I'm putting these offensive wards I'm putting these defensive wards, but things are not simply happening. Like, my team is not making the moves, or they're not farming the stacks necessary. So it's a bit of a tricky question to answer, because there's a lot of different scenarios that could happen, right? So let's say you play in a... If you play in a formal setting, like you play party queue, or, you know, with a scrim setting, you know, you're playing with people that you know, you're trying to win together. Then obviously it's pretty simple. You just have to communicate about timings, you know, talk about the vision that you're putting, etc. So, but when you're playing in a solo setting, like solo matchmaking, part of it's gonna be hero knowledge. So, for example, some heroes are really good at clearing stacks. Sanking, Darkseer, you know, these offlaners, Leshrac, Storm, these mid heroes are really good at clearing stacks. It could be a good idea to put a ward here, you know, anything that's gonna protect it. And you just want to make sure that people know that there are stacks here, come get them, and then you'll take the lane for them. So most players will not, especially core players, will not really like, they will not avoid a stack if they can, like they love farm. So most of the time that shouldn't really be an issue. I would say the most tricky one is when you're trying to put offensive wards, but your team is not doing that. They're not doing the moves, right? So if you have, let's say you have an Ember Spirit mid, you need to always, as a support when you're warding, you need to look at how's your heroes doing, like what's his XP, what's his net worth, in regards to like the overall state of the game. So you need to judge, like, is this guy doing good right now, or is he not? If he's doing really good, if he's looking strong, if he's investing in like fighting items, chances are obviously higher that he's gonna try to make a move, right? But if he's like playing, let's say, a sniper mid with a Midas, he's probably not gonna be as eager to go make these moves. This means that he's probably gonna appreciate the defensive wards a lot more, and the offensive wards that you're gonna put are gonna, you know, be... how do you put it? Like, they're gonna be kind of useless. So it's a lot about hero knowledge, but it's also about, you know, kind of player knowledge. Even if it's someone that you have never played with before, you need to understand what he's trying to do with his game. And you can do this even without communication in some ways. So just make sure that you're very in tune with how your cores are doing and what you're trying to do in the game. Sometimes it's gonna be more difficult. Obviously, there's difficult people to work with in this world, but you know, the more you practice a skill, the better it's gonna be, and then you'll see the improvements a lot in your warding and also the overall flow of the game. If your warding relates to the game plan of your course and yourself, that's gonna be fairly easy games to play almost in any bracket, I would